There's not this competitive thing of I have my secret technique that I'll never tell anyone. People who make tutorials, that's a way to get ahead in the industry. That's a way to become visible and market yourself. Instead of being the person with the secret thing that only I know how to do this, having taught the world how to do something gets your name out there way better. Structurally, it's conducive to that kind of sharing, but it is genuinely really friendly and people help each other out.
Hey Hatchlings, welcome to the Motion Hatch podcast. I'm your host, Hayley Akins. Hey Hatchlings, welcome to the show. This is a podcast where we talk about the business side of motion design and animation. Thanks so much for being here. If this is your first time listening, please do subscribe because we've got loads of great episodes coming up for you. Now, this is part 5 of our series called Making Money in Mograph. Now, you can go back and listen to the other 4 episodes. Please do that if you haven't already listened to them. On this week's episode, we talked to Victoria Nece. Now, she is a senior product manager for Adobe After Effects, so she definitely has quite an unusual role in the industry, so that's why we brought her on. And it was super cool to talk to her about what the After Effects team does and more about her job role. She also told us a bit about how you can make some passive income as a motion designer. So it was great to talk to her. I know you're going to really enjoy it. Hey, Victoria, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So you're the senior product manager for motion graphics and visual effects at Adobe. Does that mean that you mostly work on After Effects?
Yeah, After Effects is my primary focus. I'll often just introduce myself as the PM for After Effects because it's a lot simpler. My title's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about your background then and how you got started in motion graphics?
I've been using After Effects since I was 13 years old. So in a lot of ways, I am a young old timer. I was really lucky to get access to those tools through a high school television production program, and I just got hooked and got really involved in motion graphics. A lot of my background is actually Mograph for documentary and factual production. So stuff like PBS Frontline, those kinds of shows. Did a lot of different PBS things. My last job before I moved over to Adobe, I was director of animation at the Documentary Group, which is the successor company to Peter Jennings Productions. So I moved into, somehow gotten really into both facts and motion graphics, which was a sort of niche section of the industry. There's not a lot of people doing that work. I think everybody who is in that part of the industry knows each other at this point. But I started writing my own tools and extensions for After Effects because I would often end up the only designer on an entire feature film. And there's a lot of really repetitive work in documentary, things like lower thirds, where there might be 80 of them in a single movie. So you need to streamline those workflows. And I got into scripting and automating that stuff because I hated doing those really boring, repetitive tasks, duplicate, copy and paste, rename it, and wanted to really focus on the design side of things. But that actually led me to the software side and into the automation tools and becoming part of the scripting community around After Effects. And from there, I got to know the AE team, and now I'm here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So did you ever sell any of your scripts or extensions or anything like that?
Yeah, 3 of them are still available on AE Scripts. I'm sadly not allowed to update them because now I work for Adobe and they own any code that I write. But I have one that is a credit scroller that's actually done really, really well and has been used on Hollywood movies. So that was cool to find out.
That's awesome. Yeah. So back to the documentary stuff. How did you get into doing that kind of work? Because I imagine a lot of people in the industry would be quite interested in working on films and stuff like that.
I kind of fell into it. I lucked into a couple of early freelance gigs with some factual production stuff for Travel Channel shows and things like that, and doing some archival restoration of images for documentaries. And From there, kind of got to know some people in the doc scene. And another thing that really helped, and it's funny because I actually just met with somebody at the BBC earlier today. We were talking about this, but I was really lucky to get the opportunity to do a program where instead of a semester of college, I took the BBC's employee training program in London and then did work experience on a show and got a lot of research training out of that. And the fact that I could go into a job and say, I'm a BBC trained researcher in addition to an animator meant that through some pretty random connections and somebody's ex-roommate had interned for a company and somebody that I'd helped in the animation lab in college, like one of those really weird chains of events, turned into interviewing at a documentary house and them saying, oh, you have a factual background as well. That's incredibly rare. Instead of a freelance job on this one particular project, would you like to be staff? And then I was there for nearly a decade.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it was all through like networking and connections and stuff. How come you were like doing kind of the BBC stuff in London? How did you get that opportunity?
I was actually programmed through my university, and it was an ongoing program. And funny thing, someone I was meeting with today actually remembers a whole bunch of the students from it. So it was just a cool thing to get to do.
Yeah, that's great. I think the BBC are quite good at doing that kind of thing. So yeah, that's really awesome to hear. That's how you got into it.
That was great, yeah.
So what kind of made you make the move then from like being a motion designer and director into kind of working for Adobe? Was it through the scripts side of things?
The scripting was how I got to know a bunch of people. And the scripting community, by the way, is lovely. If anyone's interested in learning to script, they're incredibly welcoming because everybody comes from an arts background. You don't get a lot of the programming gatekeeping you hear about in other circumstances. Everybody just helps each other out, which is super, super cool. That's an aside. It's all long, weird, convoluted stories. But I'd been writing scripts for a while and had gotten more and more into automation and really loved coding. And in fact, I find I miss coding sometimes more than I miss designing, which has been interesting. I figured I'd really miss making stuff. And the thing I find I'm missing making is scripts. I really love that stuff. I really love streamlining the process, cutting out that busy work. And this is why so much of what I'll end up talking about is it's all about giving people more time to design. But I'd gotten from the script stuff, the thing that got me really hooked on scripting was collaborating with a friend on some tools for commodity motion capture using the Microsoft Kinect, for instance, and being able to use that data inside After Effects. And from there, I joined the beta program for Character Animator, really early days. And because I'd been working on these kinds of tools and was familiar with what was and wasn't possible, I was really active in the beta and in giving feedback. And at the time, they were looking for someone to write the first documentation guide for the very first beta version of Character Animator to teach the press how to use it. Essentially, we don't normally do these guides, but brand new product, needed a walkthrough, needs the step-by-step, here's how to do this. And Michelle Galina, who's the marketing manager, was looking through the pre-release forums going, all right, I need someone who understands Character Animator and can write, and found me. So I actually did this little contract job for Adobe before I joined the After Effects team, writing some of the documentation for Character Animator. And that was just by being loud on the beta program.
Right, yeah. So do you like have any writing skills, like as in like a writing background or something? Were you doing a blog? Like how did they know that you could write things as well?
I've done some of that, and just quite a bit of that with working in documentary and actually having the ability to influence the storytelling in the films, which was one of the cool things about what I used to do. Is I got a lot of editorial control over my sections of films and actually helping to shape the story. So there was that part of it. And also just I was posting a lot on the pre-release forums.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what does your kind of day-to-day role look like now as a product manager for After Effects?
My job is completely different day to day, week to week. There's kind of a rhythm to the year, often around the big releases that we do and the conference schedule. And so there will be the whole lead up into one thing, and then we'll focus more on roadmap and what's next, and then we'll focus more on the next event. So it's very event driven. I also spend a lot of time on the road. And so if I'm chatting to you from London now, and the past couple of weeks I've been in multiple countries, both sides of the US. It's a lot of bouncing around. And so there's those kinds of things as well. And then at other times it becomes all about either what's way off in the future, what's the big vision, or working with other parts of the company and figuring out how we work together.
Okay, that's interesting. What is it something that you really like about the job, that you get to kind of travel around a lot?
I mostly really like the travel. There was the point where I was in a taxi and they asked me where I was going and I had to stop and look it up because I couldn't remember. was what that was maybe not a highlight, but but it is really great to be able to get to visit so many places, and I've really made friends around the world doing this, which is super, super cool. But I'm not home that much.
Yeah. What kind of things are you doing, I guess, when you're going to all the different places?
So it varies. Right now, I'm in London for a thing we do every year called the Media Executive Roundtables, where we essentially present what we're going to be doing for the next few years to people who are leaders within their companies, different, usually broadcasters. It's a little bit wider than that, but we do a lot of one-on-one kind of things with enterprise users like that, those big scale customers. I always try to meet with individual artists because they're the people actually using the product. That's just where I'm comfortable. I always say I'd much rather talk to them than their bosses. So there's these kinds of meetings which are really face to face. I think it's just really important for us to be visibly humans and not just this giant company, because Adobe is really big. I think Adobe has 19,000 employees now, but our teams are very small, and we kind of need to just be there as people. Other times I'm on the road for big conferences. NAB and IBC are the two really big ones. I'm doing another conference this upcoming weekend about choreographic interfaces and essentially arts and technology, not just where they meet, but how they meet and how arts can influence the development of tech and vice versa. So sometimes it's just cool stuff like that. Other times it's offsites or those sorts of things where it's more internal. There's quite a lot of time on the road, and a lot of it is meeting with users.
You're doing a bit of speaking as well then as you kind of go around. I know that a lot of people are really, really scared of doing speaking. Do you have any tips for people who are thinking about getting into that? And do you feel like it's a good thing to do in our industry?
I want so many more people to get into speaking. And if you're interested in speaking, you should reach out to me because we need a broader pool of people to go out there on our behalf too. But it is intimidating at first. It's funny though, because it's one of the things I thought I'd find really scary and stressful and hard. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of my job. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm pretty comfortable. It's just, all right, we're going to do it. Last year, I spoke in front of 3,500 people.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do more speaking. So I'm always asking people about that. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because I think it's good, but it is it can be quite daunting as well, when you're like, oh my God, I've got to speak in front of all these people. And you always think what if they think I don't know what I'm talking about?
It is really scary. And at first, I think you just rehearse a whole bunch, get comfortable with your words so that they sound like you and not like a script. Yeah. And then once you have that down and the shape of that down, you can start improvising on top of that. I used to script every word and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. And now I'm a lot more freeform.
Yeah, that's good to hear that it gets a bit easier.
It does.
I know I think a lot more people are starting to do this in the motion graphics industry, but because we spend most of our time sitting behind computers, it's kind of hard to, push yourself out there to do this kind of thing.
It is, and it's strange. I still don't want to watch a video of myself or listen to myself on a podcast. I will listen to this, but it'll freak me out. But I'm perfectly comfortable talking to people in person. I find video stranger somehow, even though we make video tools.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I guess because I've done this podcast so much now and I have to check it all the time. Now I've got used to the podcasting, but then I want to do some more stuff on YouTube and some more speaking, and I'm not yet used to that. So I'm okay with the podcast and I'm still a bit nervous about the other stuff. But like you say, everything just gets easier the more you do it. So you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's the only advice. Just keep doing it, and you're more comfortable every time. But it's also helpful to remind yourself the audience isn't hostile. They don't want you to fail. They're not sitting there waiting for you to mess up.
Yeah, and most of the time, I think what I'm trying to think about is that the audience actually wants to learn from you, and if you're there, like if you're doing some speaking or you're on a podcast or something, then it's usually for a reason, and so like it's more about them than you kind of being worried about what you're saying, I guess.
That said, everybody's nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a bit about, because you were talking about how you did a lot of stuff to automate your job. And I know that motion graphics templates have become more of a thing recently. Do you think that's going to become more of a thing? And do you also think that it's a viable option for people to start making them and selling them?
Absolutely. Motion graphics templates has been really fun to see how much it's taken off. It had been an internal project for a long time. Kind of the code name for it was Capsules, which a lot of us still thought was a better name, but branding said no to it because apparently when you translate that into other languages, saying we're giving someone a motion graphics capsule sounds like we're giving them drugs.
Oh, right.
So
motion graphics drugs.
Yeah, so that one kind of failed the branding test. But it's something that had been an internal effort for a long time. There'd been a lot of iterations on what that could be. And then we pushed it forward into the form it's in now. And one of the key decisions that happened early on was to say control goes to the author of the template and simplicity for the user of the template, the editor who's consuming that template. And that's sort of been the design principle all along, is it's up to the designer to choose what's available to the editor to change. And so that means that you can actually really maintain your design vision, maintain your, if it's branded, if it's bespoke content, that you can keep someone on brand, you can give them guardrails, and you can trust that they're not going to screw up your design. They're not going to ruin the thing that you build because they can only change a few things about it. And that's really compelling for a lot of people because it separates out the original branding and design work from all of the endless iterations on that same thing. I've talked to people who make promos who said that they have about a half an hour of design time, and then the entire rest of their day is just duplicating, making the next version, duplicating that, making the next version. And that's not really rewarding work. I don't think anyone ever got into this industry to copy and paste. And yet there's tons and tons of people, that's their main job. And that's not creative. It's not a great use of their time. And those kinds of jobs are not that rewarding. And so what we've seen with the templates, with some of the people who've implemented them at scale, and the thing that's most exciting about them to me is it's meant that their design teams, it's not fire your designers, you've automated everything. It's, our editors can do the day-to-day work. They can do the fill in the blanks, do things in context, things like lower thirds and titles. And the design team can work on bespoke stuff for the thing that's higher priority.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Way more fun. It's the work that no one had time to do before. That's the thing I think is so exciting about this, is it means your designers actually get time to design, and it gives editors some power. It empowers them to make changes themselves without having to ask someone else to do something even really simple like changing the spelling in a name. You shouldn't have to go to another person in another department and go, hey, can you change the spelling? That's exactly the kind of thing you should be able to just do yourself right there, right in the timeline.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I used to do a lot of kind of lower thirds and stuff like that. I used to work at a sports broadcasting company, and I don't think motion graphics templates, it wasn't really around then. It was just us like churning stuff out, and I think it would be really useful to use it in that way. But also I know like the other aspect of it is now people are selling them in Adobe Stock, like to editors or people making videos and things like that, and they can buy them. So if you're a motion designer, like I see that as could be like a good way to get some passive income. And I spoke to Jake Bartlett a little bit about that on the last podcast.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities to generate some passive income that way. I think it's actually a great way to reuse designs that didn't get picked up. If you made 3 options for something and client goes with option C, why not turn option A and B into stock templates, sell them? It's a way to reuse work that might not otherwise see the light of day. There's a lot of cool things like that it opens up. there's definitely stock opportunities. We're also seeing them as something people are building and delivering to clients. So building a full brand package and handing over not just finished renders, but templatized versions that the client can then iterate on.
It just isn't something that I see being discussed that much, so I wanted to bring it up. Is there kind of some place that people can learn more about how to make them and things like that?
There is a free ebook and it's awesome. We worked with Jarle Lerpo. He wrote a lovely, lovely ebook for us, and I think I'm saying his name right, that it's all about creating motion graphics templates. And if you go to adobe.ly/make Mogurts, 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 it's about 120 pages, and it is super detailed. It's excellent stuff, and it's full of info on not just how to develop them, but how to make them flexible, all the expressions that you can use, things like that. And also goes into one of the other key things, which is you actually have to design a motion graphics template, or we do call them Mogurts for short. Rhymes with yogurt. We call them Mogurts. But with a motion graphics template, you don't just design your design. You're actually designing the experience of using it as well. It's almost like making a little piece of software. Like you have to put your product hat on, you have to put your UX designer hat on, and think about what an editor needs to do, what they need to be able to change, what you don't want them to change, the order things should be in, how to make it clear, giving them instructions and information. What do they need to know to use the thing you're building? One of the best tips that I've heard from a user recently, and I think this is so simple and it's so brilliant. They're using a ton of them in-house. Putting a version number and contact info as a comment at the bottom of the template. That means that even if it's handed down to 30 different people in an organization, they always know who created it. They can go back to that person if they need changes. That's so simple, but building that data into the template itself is kind of thing that can really streamline those sorts of workflows.
When was the last time a client paid you late, or you wanted to charge for project files but didn't know how? Most of the issues we face in our businesses as motion designers can be solved with good communication. The best way to communicate your terms upfront to the client and ensure your project runs smoothly is to have a solid contract in place. In talking to motion designers, I know that most are either not using a contract at all or have cobbled together one from various online sources. I get it, lawyers can be expensive and you just want to get on with what you do best, which is making great work. That's exactly why I created the Freelance Contract Bundle. Designed in collaboration with lawyers from both the UK and the US, the Freelance Contract Bundle is a set of downloadable contract templates made specially for motion designers and animators. It includes a commission contract and a freelance terms of service contract, helping you create smoother relationships both direct to client and also while working with agencies and studios. To find out how the Freelance Contract Bundle can help protect your business, your work, and ensure your projects run smoothly, go to motionhatch.com/contract. Now let's get back to the episode. We'll put the ebook in the show notes as well, so it makes it easy for people to find it.
Yeah, that ebook is fantastic. There's so much good information in it. It's super thorough. There's a lot of other things out there as well. There's a lot of documentation, but the ebook's kind of everything all in one. It's the Mogurts Masterclass.
Awesome. Well, it sounds really interesting. I was having a little look today and I was like, oh, I need to check this out. It's pretty cool. So when you're looking to hire people for the After Effects team, what kind of people are you looking for?
Oh, that's a great question. So we're actually hiring a whole bunch of people right now. You want another website? AfterEffectsIsHiring.com.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We're staffing up right now, which is exciting. There's some big projects underway. We've brought in people from all kinds of different backgrounds. Product management in particular is one of those things where who knows where your background is. Some people come from business, some people come from engineering. I come from a user background, which is fun. But we've hired several After Effects users onto the team, and having people with that expertise has been great. We've also brought in people who have deep expertise elsewhere or in other parts of the creative industry, and they've made the jump over to graphics from, say, audio software. But the one thing everybody has in common is that everyone on the team really cares about doing what's best for users.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wondered whether it was more developer kind of roles or whether you were kind of ever hiring like more motion graphics people. I just think that people find that quite interesting, because it's just a completely different career path, but it's like still in the motion design industry.
Most of the roles are developers or quality engineers, just numerically. That's the biggest portion of the team. But the whole team altogether is only about 3 dozen people. We're really little. We're a small team within a big company, which is cool in a lot of ways. We do share a lot of code with the other products. So, for instance, we use a library version of Photoshop to use Photoshop files, but then we have a library version of After Effects that Premiere uses to render motion graphics templates. So there's a lot of cross-team coordination. But within our team, biggest chunk is developers, quality engineers. That's about 50-50. They're about the same size. And then there's a handful of us beyond that doing management stuff.
I wondered whether any of the team at Adobe work remotely, because I know that in the industry, people like freelancers are doing more and more remote work, or whether it's just like in certain places.
Funny thing there is that Adobe doesn't allow remote work. You have to be in an Adobe office, and yet I'm on the road so much I'm mostly working remote.
Yeah.
But they actually relocated me to Seattle to join the team. So I'd been in New York before that. So I've been in Seattle about 3 years because the whole After Effects team is actually pretty much co-located. There's a handful of people who are in other offices, but for the most part, we're all in one place.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. I just wondered because I know that there's a lot of companies now that are doing more remote work. So I thought it was kind of an interesting question to ask. Do you think that there are any kind of particular directions that you see our industry headed in?
One thing that we talk a lot about that ties in with the templates is there's just no one final version of anything anymore. You have endless iterations on single. You start with a design, but then you need it in different languages, in different formats, different aspect ratios. Now you need a version for social. Now you need the promo version. And needing that flexibility. That's a thing that I've really seen a lot of, especially at large scale stuff. Once you've done something, you need to make endless versions of it. There's also some creative directions I've seen. 3D has become much more part of motion graphics than it used to be. I think we're getting away a little bit from the flat design that's been so dominant for the last few years. Seeing some more variety there, which is nice. There was a couple of years there where it felt like everybody was super, super, super flat shapes. And now there's a lot more texture coming back.
Do you kind of have like a overview of like what the kind of main areas people are concentrating on in motion design, like how they're using After Effects?
A lot of that comes from customer visits. We try to visit a variety of people. And After Effects users are super diverse. You have motion designers, you have visual effects artists, you have people doing UX design, you have people delivering to all kinds of different platforms. There's just a tremendous amount of variety there. And trying to keep track of all of that is sometimes a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, because I've heard some people say like, oh, well, After Effects wasn't originally built to do like character design and stuff like that. But now like everyone's using it to do character design, especially, because of Rubber Hose and Jewett and things like that. I just thought, have you kind of seen that whether there was like, oh, most people are using it in this area, but then like it's quite interesting to see it kind of morph and change into something else?
My favorite moments are the ones where someone on the dev team is shocked that someone managed to do something in AE that they never intended it to do. But that's one of the things that's so fun about it is the tools in there are so open-ended. We don't give you a lightsaber tool. We give you a beam effect and a motion tracker. Just as a random example, you connect the dots in different ways, you get totally different things. And those same tools can be reused in all kinds of ways. I've been seeing a lot of people experimenting lately with even just pushing the text animators to do non-text things. Kyle's been doing some of that, so that's been super fun to follow. And After Effects users are fearless about using tools in the ways they were never meant to be used. And then we've actually built features because, hey, wait a second, people are using this in a really weird, different way. This wasn't what this was built for. But that means they need to do that. Let's build that. That's how the templates stuff came about, was people started hacking live text templates to make them flexible and actually change content beyond just type. Those kinds of things happen all the time. Character animation is a great example. That's one of the reasons why Character Animator exists, is they went, wait a second, we didn't ever intend for After Effects to be a character animation tool, but it's become incredibly popular for that. How do we build something that's more bespoke to that workflow?
Do you think there's anything that you can kind of see coming up that might be like a similar thing at the moment?
we talk about what's coming up, that's when that gets into trickier areas. What am I allowed to talk about?
Yeah.
There's a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. We pay a lot of attention to how, not just how our user base is changing, but how their jobs are changing, what they're being asked to do, and what they're being asked to deliver that wasn't part of their previous jobs. And that's a big area of focus for us, tracking those kinds of changes. And I have to be a little bit vague here.
No, it's fine. Well, one thing I did want to say was like I appreciate it, and I'm sure other people do, that I see you and a lot of the After Effects team like on forums and on the Slack channel and stuff like that. So I think that's really good. It's not like all of your teams like over there and the motion designers are over here. You know, I feel like it's very integrated. So I think that everyone appreciates that.
We really try to be a part of the community, not just reach out and see you as research subjects.
Yeah.
It goes back to we need to be humans. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So I just wanted to ask you as well, like, what's your favorite thing about your job and working with the After Effects team?
Honestly, my favorite thing is that I get to hang out with artists and that counts as work. A lot of stuff I used to do all the time that wasn't part of my job, of hanging out in the After Effects community, is now part of my job. I always joked that I talked about After Effects so much they decided to pay me to do it.
That's true. Like most people are like hanging out in the forums and talking to people and going to conferences and things like that. So it must be cool to get to do that all the time, basically.
Yeah, that part's really fun. I mean, there's the times at conferences where you're like, I've just had a 16-hour day and I have 2 more events. And those days you're like, keep going. But it's sometimes the only opportunity to see people that I love, and it's worth it just to get to hang out and be part of that.
Yeah, I think the motion design industry is actually really good for like it's quite friendly, you know, and everyone kind of wants to help each other. Some industries don't feel like that. Like music comes to mind all the time when I think about that. Like bands and stuff, they never really want to help each other, but like motion designers and people in the industry seem like they're always like, "Hey, yeah, I'll help you. I'll give you some work, blah blah blah." And I think that's really really nice.
I do too, and there's not this competitive thing of I have my secret technique that I'll never tell anyone. People who make tutorials, that's a way to get ahead in the industry. That's a way to become visible and market yourself instead of being the person with the secret thing that only I know how to do this. Having taught the world how to do something gets your name out there way better. Structurally, it's conducive to that kind of sharing, but it is genuinely really friendly and people help each other out.
Do you think there's any untapped areas that motion designers should kind of get into, like either on the kind of tutorial teaching side or on the kind of motion design side?
This is just my perspective from how much time I've spent on the road looking at people's workflows. Bigger picture stuff, not just particular design techniques, which I love watching. Wow, how did someone do this design training? But there's so much stuff that it may not look as sexy, but if you save someone 3 hours of their day by automating things like file management and naming and organizing stuff and those ways of collaborating, I'd love to see more people looking at how to work together, not just how to work on your own, but how to work with other designers, how to build projects that someone else can understand easily and quickly, those kinds of things. There's a lot of space for that. I don't see many people doing that sort of training out there at all.
Especially like what I was saying about the working remotely thing is because more and more people are working remotely, and even like, you know, I know I've done this and other freelancers do it, is like hiring other freelancers to like help them scale up their businesses to take on bigger projects, and then everyone's just in their own place, and like people in London hiring people in the US because they're the best person for the job and things like that. So I think that's going to become more and more important.
And how you work together when you're in different time zones and sharing files, and where do your assets go, or how are you versioning things, all of that can add so much extra sort of administrative headache to your day.
Yeah, definitely. Like, how do you kind of organize your time? Is there any like tools or anything that you use that you think might be useful for other people? Because I know that people who are really busy and they do lots of different things in their job are normally super good at this kind of stuff.
I live and die by my Outlook calendar, but that's that's just what we use at work. I don't think I would be able to function if I didn't have a calendar. One thing I find actually really handy little website, worldtimebuddy.com. It gives you a horizontal chart of relative times in different time zones. And when you're booking meetings with people around the world, it's very handy.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good little tip there, because I'm always like, what time is it? Like always interviewing people in the US, and I never know like what time it is there and what time it is here and stuff like that.
I just never know what time it is, period.
So do you think that as our industry kind of gets older, that more and more people will start working in like different ways in the industry and like have different and unusual job roles?
I think we're going to see a lot more of that. There was that interesting thread a while back where a lot of people started talking about how do you age as a motion designer? What's your career path like? And there is no obvious specific career ladder that everyone can follow. Motion design is a job, but what do you do next? There's no one answer. I went to the tools side, but lots of people go different ways there, and I'm still amazed that this is my job.
Yeah, I think that's like how I kind of feel with doing this podcast and helping people with the business side of things. Is I feel like this is my like career path going in like a slightly new direction, which is really cool because it's kind of, you're still being like, I'm still doing like tons of client work, but you're kind of doing something different as well that's still creative, like making this podcast. So it's really, really cool, really interesting. So, how can people get more involved with shaping the tools in our industry?
So there's a few different ways. You don't have to join the After Effects team to help influence our roadmap. I mean, everything we do is based on user feedback. Everything we do. I don't think we've built a single feature in the last several years that I couldn't put specific people's names on, even. But one of the things that really helps there is also giving us early feedback on tools. We have a pre-release program that if you're interested in joining, send me your name, reach out, and I'll happy to invite you. Right now, we are looking for people to help test content-aware fill for video, and I'm really excited about that. That's some super cool stuff that we've been working on for a while now. And if you go to adobeprerelease.com, you can apply to join the pre-release and test out content-aware fill.
Nice. We'll put that in the show notes as well.
The other thing there is simply go to conferences. People are there. Talk to the team. We're there. We're happy to talk. And conferences in particular are a nice space for that kind of interaction and feedback. And it's how we get a read on sort of the shape of the industry.
I went to a podcasting conference, Podcast Movement, and I was talking to some of the audition team there, and that was quite nice. And I was like, I need to talk to more of the After Effects team.
And the audition guys are great. I love everybody on that team. They're excellent, excellent people. And they know their users super well. My trick for conferences back when I was much younger and much more nervous in the industry, and like, I have to meet people all day, but I'm still shy, was I would go with a friend and we would introduce each other. And I think this is the best conference hack because it's really hard to walk up to people and just be like, hi, I'm awesome. No, that never works. Nobody does that. You don't sound sincere. It's really hard to talk about yourself, but it's really easy to say, hi, this is my friend. They're awesome. It makes it so much simpler to initiate conversations.
I think that people find it hard, to kind of network and things like that. Like they're a bit like, but I always think like, it's just trying to meet people in the industry, and most of the time everyone feels the same anyway. So you just got to kind of put yourself out there and try not to be like, oh, I sound so stupid, because I always think that when I'm talking to people.
Networking is hard. I still think it's hard. Twitter helps because you don't have anything where you don't have the obligation of, now that I've met you, I have to talk to you for an hour, where you can have the sort of micro interactions with people and become more familiar with them. Those kinds of things help a lot. Slack's another place like that, where you're just part of the conversation. You're not necessarily doing this whole, I will now network with you thing, which I can't do. It feels so awkward.
Yeah, and I think it's actually good to go on Twitter and try and interact with people in the Slack, because then you actually meet a lot of those people at conferences in real life, and then you're like, oh, I kind of already know you because we talked on Twitter loads before, so it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to you on Slack before we met.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where can people find you online if they want to get in touch?
I am Fake Green Dress on most social websites. That's been my handle online since about 7th grade. So it's been a while, but I'm usually around on Twitter. That's probably the easiest one. If you're on the motion design Slack, I'm on there. There's a few women in motion design communities I'm also involved with.
Yeah, cool. I think we'll put the motion design Slack in the show notes as well, because if anyone isn't on there, it's like it's just a huge Slack now, but like it's quite easy to get in touch with people on there and stuff.
Yeah, the Slack is great. It's about 3,000 people. I feel like it keeps me company while I'm in the office.
Yeah, it can be kind of distracting as well, though, I found. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Thank you again to Victoria Nece for coming on the show. That was really, really awesome. I really enjoyed talking to her. She gave us so many tips and tricks, and she told us all about her job and everything like that. It was super interesting to hear about what she does. So if you enjoyed this episode, please do consider sharing it with a friend. I really, really enjoy doing this podcast, and I really enjoy helping you all with the business side of motion design. So it's great to get the podcast out there to more people. And yeah, thank you again for listening to the end. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.